Hi everyone, my name is Deanna and welcome to my channel about stories that happen in life. Sit back, pour yourself a hot drink. I think this is going to be very interesting. Well, before we start, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a lot of new and useful videos. Ksenia stood in front of the administrator Regina, whom everyone in the restaurant feared like fire, and did not dare to raise her eyes at her. Listen, Litvinova, this is my last warning to you. Once again, you throw such a thing. Fly out of here like a cork, understand? Xenia was silent. She could argue that she did nothing wrong and just replaced another waitress, Julia, who for some reason became ill. In addition, she managed to serve all the tables, and only one visitor had to wait a little bit. Unfortunately, he turned out to be some big shot and did not fail to make a scandal. Regina rushed to him to make up for the embarrassment and to calm him down, offered him a glass of wonderful wine and the most expensive dish on the house. All this I'll deduct from your salary, she then hissed to Xenia, watching how the guest, having changed his anger into mercy, enjoyed a delicious meal, which he accepted haughtily but favorably. In fact, I've already regretted 100 times that I took you here as a waitress. Normal people are working here, not a bunch of schmucks like you. Thank Anna Valeryevna that she took pity on you, because if it were not for her, I would not have agreed to give you this place. Xenia understood what her boss was talking about. Regina was the daughter-in-law of Anna Valeryevna, the director of the orphanage where Xenia was once brought up. Anna Valeryevna was loved by everyone. She always treated her students kindly, took care of them, and tried to help them somehow in life. And that's why one day she asked her daughter-in-law to arrange a smart girl Xenia in her restaurant. Xenia a few years ago was our pupil, said Anna, calling Regina. She is so sweet and very kind. After graduating from the orphanage, she worked in a nursing home for a while. But after that fire, you remember, that happened there a year ago, the orphanage was closed, and the old people were moved to other boarding schools all over the region. She was left without a job, and now she has to make do with odd jobs. I beg you, dear, help her. Ksiosha is a good girl, and I feel sorry for her. Regina agreed with a heavy heart. She generally did not understand people who were engaged in charity and believed that everyone should achieve success in this life themselves. Although she found her well-being only after she married Anna's son, a well-known businessman in the city, like many people who suddenly escaped from the dirt to the princes. Regina despised everyone who was now below her in status, and never tired of showing her subordinates their unenviable place. Quiet and unrequited Xenia, for some reason Regina hated especially, and did not even hide it, and therefore did not forgive her the slightest misstep. Listen to me, she said to Xenia in a superior tone. Tomorrow night we have ordered an away banquet. You will go there instead of Julia, do you understand? And God forbid, people will complain to me about you. Xenia habitually nodded silently, which led Regina to even more indignation, and then returned to her duties, secretly sighing with relief that the reprimand was so short. The banquet that Regina was talking about started strictly on time, and Xenia, along with a couple of other waiters, deftly served the guests, unwittingly listening to the conversations of the owners of the house. And Lyubov Ilyinichna, not the first year working in this house, cheerful and chatty, did not stop talking for a minute, explaining to Xenia who is to whom here. Over there you see, gray-haired man? That's the owner of the house, Andrei Ilyich. He has 2 large companies in the city, and I think in the region. There's something. His wife, Vera Vasilyevna, is in a blue suit, and there's a man over there with glasses and a glass in his hand. See? That's their son, Vladimir. Herman, his friend, is talking to him. And there are those women at the table. They're Herman's sisters, Alla and Maria. It seems that Alla will soon be Vladimir's wife. I just don't know which one she is. They're twins. I always get them mixed up. But they've only recently started coming to visit us. Oh, well, it doesn't matter. The tables were arranged all over the garden, and it so happened that the one at which sat Vladimir, Herman, and his sisters served Ksenia. Vladimir had just gone to greet the new guests when Herman received a phone call. He answered the call, listened to someone for a long time, then said something briefly and disconnected the call. "What's the matter?" Alla asked him. "My mother is sick," he explained grudgingly. "Her neighbor, Zanaida, called me." "Do you remember her?" The sisters nodded. "So what's wrong with Mom?" Maria asked now. "I haven't quite figured it out myself," he shrugged. "A stroke, I think, and she's in the hospital now. But even that is not the main thing. Do you know what our mom has done? She's asking us to come take care of her." "Well, how do you like that?" "I can't," Alla immediately exclaimed. "Volodya and I are going on vacation. We've even bought tickets. We've got a hotel booked and everything." "I can't do it anymore, and neither can I," said Herman. "I don't know anything about taking care of old women. And anyway, she is not my mother. You are her daughters, so decide." "You've decided to blame it all on us," Maria flared up. "Hera brought you up from the age of 6, when we were not yet in the plans. Then they decided to have a child together in their old age." "Yes, but they miscalculated," grinned Herman, "and instead of one gave birth to 2 at once. Enough quarreling. Let's think about what we're going to do." "I'm not going either," said Maria. "Don't look at me like that. I have a lot of my things to do. Leshka will go to the 1st grade in September. Vadim disappears all day in his bank. He was promised a promotion. Our whole family depends on him. How can I leave them?" "Well, then, only the orphanage remains," shrugged Herman, "or whatever it's called." "Right," supported his sisters. "After all, hiring a nurse is expensive, and this will be good." "They'll look after her in the nursing home," Maria nodded. "They'll feed her and give her medicine. And we'll pay for their services, and that's it." "No, that's not how it's done," Alla objected. "We just have to formalize everything so that her pension goes to them as payment. She doesn't need the money anymore. And it will turn out that she will provide for herself. We just need to decide who's going to go and do it." "I already said I can't." "Neither can I," Maria exclaimed. "Oh, calm down." Herman waved his hand. "Nobody needs to go. I'll talk to Talik. That's our lawyer. He just deals with Social Security. I'll give him a paw, and he'll do everything. Only how much he does not ask. The costs are shared." Xenia unwittingly heard all this conversation and was indignant to the core. She could not stand it and went up to Herman and his sisters. "How can you talk like that? This is your mother we're talking about. She gave birth to you, raised you, and brought you up after all. And you do this to her? You need to go to where she lives. The poor old woman is waiting for you, and you're blaming each other. Shame on you." "Shut up, you fool," Alla hissed. "Who are you to tell us what we should do and what we shouldn't? You're a waitress, a miserable servant. So please, shut your mouth and do your job." "I'll inform your management today about what you're doing," Herman added. "And I won't rest until you're out of a job." "No, look at you. What impudence." I splashed my hands. "Maria, why are you staring at us? Get out, and don't come near our table again, or I'll tell the owners, and they'll throw you out right now." Even though they were speaking quietly enough, the guests who were close to them began to turn around and listen. Vera Vasilievna, the landlady, hurried over to see what was the matter. Alla met her with a broad smile. "Vera Vasilievna, my dear, don't worry. It's just that the waitress almost knocked over my sister's glass, and when she was reprimanded, she insulted her in return. But I've already put her in her place. Maria was right. The insolence of this servant knows no bounds." Vera Vasilievna looked down at Ksenia. "Are you still here? Leave us now." Xenia flushed to the roots of her hair and quickly went to where there was a platform for waiters and cooks. She was immediately approached by Lyubov Ilyinichna. "What happened there?" "I saw Vera. She was just furious. It seems that I just became unemployed." Xenia smiled sadly and told her new acquaintance about what just happened. Yes, shook her head that. Well, you and got lucky. Well, do not be afraid. Vera we have, of course, strict, but still kind. Let's hope that it will pass, and no one will not complain to your superiors. Xenia remembered Regina and sighed. The rest of the evening passed quite quietly and peacefully, but Xenia repeatedly noticed that Herman does not take off her attentive look. When the party came to an end, and Xenia's work was finished, she hurriedly changed her clothes and headed for the exit. But suddenly someone took her by the arm. She turned around and saw Herman. "What do you need?" asked Xenia, not expecting from the upcoming conversation nothing good. "Let's take a little walk," he offered in response quite peacefully. "But you do not think I do not want to offend you or somehow offend. Let's just talk. To be honest, I didn't like the impression I left on you. Does it matter to you what I think of you?" Xenia grinned. "If I were you, I'd rather care about what your mother will think of you." "Well, you see, there you are again," sighed Herman. "So you'll let me walk you out?" "All right, let's go," agreed Xenia. For some time they walked in silence. Then Herman said, "I don't know, perhaps I am wrong in saying so, but Polina Arkadyevna is not my mother." "Yes, I call her mother, but all the same, I have never felt any special mental intimacy with her. I was 5 when my mom passed away. She got sick and burned down overnight. Of course, for me, as a child, it was a real tragedy. At that time, not many people went to psychologists. It's fashionable now. But back then, anyway, I shut myself off. And then my father found a replacement for my mom almost immediately. You know, Polina was always strict, and although she took pity on me, it didn't seem enough. Then the girls were born, I became the eldest, and everything started to spin. And now, for some reason, my sisters want me to take care of their mother. Isn't that fair?" "In a good way," said Xenia. "You must 3 of you go there. All together, do you understand? And you can leave everything like that and go to the village for an indefinite period." Herman grinned. "What are you talking about?" Xenia even stopped. "Go to her instead of me. You are kind. You feel sorry for everyone. Leave your family, your usual life, your friends. Well, agree?" "No," answered Xenia. "Ah, well, you see, and you condemn us." "It's not that," said Xenia. "I would never leave my mother, although she left me. Traded for a life of debauchery, which has always led." "Yes? Why are you looking at me like that?" "I grew up in an orphanage with my mother alive. She's gone now. 2 years ago, she didn't wake up after a binge. I buried her and I visit her grave all the time. I talk to her because I'm different, not like her. I would never abandon my parents or my children." Xenia stopped again. "You know, Herman, I used to work in a nursing home, taking care of old people. It's lucky if they fall into dementia and lose touch with reality. They just live out their lives without thinking about anything. But some grandparents stand at the window for a long time or choose a bench near the main alley during a walk and do not take their eyes off the path. They are waiting for their children, grandchildren, or those close people whom they continue to love to appear on it. It's very bitter, Xenia." "Do you have a family?" Herman suddenly asked. "No," she admitted. "I am alone." "I am also alone. Divorced 3 years ago. No children. Look, Xenia, I've decided. I'll go, but I have a proposal for you. Come with me. You said to yourself that you can take care of old people, and I do not understand it. Please help me, and believe me, I know how to be grateful." Xenia shook her head. "I'm sorry, but this is such a ridiculous idea that it's not even worth talking about it." In parting, Herman handed her a business card. "Still, take it, just in case you change your mind. Then just call me." Xenia thought and took it, and then parted with Herman, thinking that he was not so bad. She was already falling asleep when Herman came back to her mind. "And maybe this is a chance to change things," she said quietly out loud. "No, nonsense. You don't know him at all, which means you should put all this out of your head and get on with your life." By the way, I wonder if Regina already knows about what happened. If she does, the morning doesn't start with coffee. The morning indeed began not with coffee, but with a terrible rumble. Not understanding anything, Xenia jumped out of bed and ran out of the room to see what happened. And immediately her feet got stuck in dirty and somehow sticky water, which poured from the ceiling. Half of the ceiling had collapsed to the floor and was now a disgusting mess. My God! Xenia shrieked, hastily threw on a robe, and ran to the apartment, which was a floor above. "Open up, please. You flooded me," she shouted, pale with fright, because she simply did not know what to do now. Dealing with the neighbors and cleaning up took a long time. It was a large family. They had no money to pay for repairs, and the head of the family promised to do it himself. "Well, where will I live all this time?" Xenia waved her hands. "Xenia, well, think of something. I am at a complete loss. Pipes rotted, they burst. Now it is necessary to change the whole system and also to repair your apartment. I realize that we are to blame, but you are kind and can enter into our situation." Xenia sighed and nodded. "Okay, I have to go to work. I'll come. Then we'll discuss what and how." But in the restaurant, she also waited for trouble. Regina met her not just haughty, but murderous look, as if she wanted to burn her. "So you're here? The star of last night's party," she began in a cold, superior tone. "I've had all the phones cut off. They told me off like a girl for sending someone I don't know to responsible events. How dare you even dare to open your mouth?" Xenia looked at her. She already realized that nothing good today will end, and therefore decided that she has nothing to lose. "You dare not talk to me like that, and I won't let you insult me either. If you want to fire me, that's your right, but it's the best you can do." Regina wasn't used to being spoken to in this way, and was even taken aback, but then she managed to pull herself together and quietly hissed in Xenia's face, "You'll starve to death. No one in this town will take you anywhere. I'll make sure of that. It is clear to you, the scum of the back alley." She handed Xenia the dismissal papers and the money she had to pay, and threw it in her face with a sharp movement. Xenia squirmed for a second, but then looked into Regina's face and grinned. She didn't say anything and didn't pick up a single bill. Just turned around and walked away. Waitress Julia rushed after her. "Zhyushka, don't worry so much. Do you know what I heard? As if our owner went bankrupt, and now the restaurant will be sold. So maybe Regina will fly to all hells, and you can come back." Xenia hugged Julia and smiled at her. "One day everything will be fine. I believe that, and you too, please believe it." Back home, Xenia found Herman's business card and called him. "You know," she said, "I have a change of circumstances. I will go to your mother." "Very well." Herman was pleased. "I'll send you my address. Come and we'll discuss everything here." In 10 minutes she was already there, but Herman met her with a guilty smile. "I'm sorry, I can't go with you today. Here I wrote you my mom's address and bought a ticket. I'm sorry, but it's for the train, not the plane. Why don't you go on your own and tell her you're here for me? I'll join you tomorrow. You see, I have a very important project. Foreign investors have arrived. I can't leave them. No one will understand me." "Mom will understand," Xenia smiled. "Mothers are like that. They always understand their children." The road to the very village where Polina Arkadyevna lived took Xenia almost 2 days, but at last she reached the place and approached the house whose address was written on the leaflet. She wanted to leave her things there, and then to look for the old woman in the hospital. But to her surprise, as soon as she opened the gate, an elderly but quite healthy and strong woman came out to meet her. "Who do you want?" she asked. "I have come to look after Polina Arkadyevna," Xenia explained. "Her son sent me." "And who are you?" "And I am Polina Arkadyevna." The woman grinned. "So you came from Jera. Well, come in. You don't need to look after me, but you'll be my guest. But I was told that you are after a stroke." Xenia waved her hands when the owner of the house sat her down at the table and began to treat her with tea and homemade pastries. "Why did you deceive your children?" I didn't deceive them. I just wanted to check. I was wondering which one of them would come to rescue me first. And you see how it turns out a stranger came. It's funny, isn't it? You felt sorry for me 2 days on a train, and my children didn't even call. Is it so hard to pick up the phone and dial your mother's number? You call yours. I have no one, Xenia admitted. I grew up in an orphanage and then worked in a shelter where elderly people lived, so I know this life without embellishments. Yes, I felt sorry for you, but so did Herman. Don't say anything about Herman. Don't defend him. He would have come if he could. But you did, Polina Arkadyevna grinned. And why did you bring up the orphanage in the first place? Tell me everything, child. How did you meet Herman? Only tell the truth, please. Xenia did not conceal anything, but out of pity for this woman tried to somehow justify her children. Listen, said to her Polina Arkadyevna, live with me 1 week. And if any of my children come, I shall be very happy, and you will see for yourself. And if not, well, then so be it. Well, stay here. It's such a beautiful place. And please don't call anyone. Promise, I promise, nodded Xenia. Together with Polina Arkadyevna, they spent a wonderful week and became very good friends. Except that during these days, neither Herman nor Alla and Maria found time to just call their mother. Herman had called Xenia a couple of times, asking how she was doing, and when he found out that everything was fine, he disconnected the call. However, she had already realized that he would not come. A week passed, and one day at breakfast Polina Arkadyevna said to Xenia, "The time has come for us to part. I did not tell you that the house is sold, and today the new tenants will arrive. What about you?" Xenia was stunned by this news. Him. And I'm going abroad. I will live in a small village by the sea and enjoy life. Can you imagine it happening? 5 years ago, I met a man. He's Russian, but he lives abroad. His parents used to live in our village, so he came one day to visit their graves. He stayed with me, so to speak, and rented a room. We became friends. We liked each other. I went to visit him twice. He even helped me make a passport, and now waiting for me there, at his place. That's the way it is, Xenia. I sold my house for a pretty penny. A few kilometers away, a sanatorium is being built, and housing prices have skyrocketed. Besides, I had my savings and something left by my husband. I was waiting for my children to give it all to the first one who would come to me. I invented the disease for that. I wanted to see who loved me more. And then you came. Which means everything I have, I'm gonna give it all to you. I don't need anything. My future husband is a wealthy man. He has everything. And everything I had now belongs to you. Xenia only waved her hands. What are you? I cannot take it. It's unfair. Well, as you wish, grinned Polina Arkadyevna. I've said my word. And you want to throw it in the river. You want to give it to the homeless. It's up to you. Well, now let's say goodbye. I gotta go pack. And you have to go home too. Women hugged tightly. That same evening Xenia, who came home by airplane, came to Herman. She decided to give him everything she inherited from his mother. After all, it wasn't her money. He was worried. He asked her to go there. And he is working since he could not come. Xenia rang the doorbell, opened it, and recoiled in horror. In front of her stood an almost naked blonde. "You brought pizza?" she asked. "Well, finally." We were starving. From the bedroom in his underpants looked out Herman. "Xenia, are you already back?" And I wanted to. I was going to. But wait, where are you going? I'll explain everything. Your mother is healthy, Xenia told him. She got married and went abroad. She asked me to tell you not to worry about her, though I see that you are not very worried. Herman wanted to say something else, but the blonde hung on him and slammed the door. Xenia grinned. Well, so be it, as Polina Arkadyevna says, she said to herself, and headed for the exit. The next day Regina burst into the principal's office with a distorted face. "Viktor Mikhailovich, what do I recognize? Have you sold our restaurant?" "Yes," he answered calmly. Now there will be a public canteen with low prices and delicious food. At least that's what the new owner promises. Who? Regina exclaimed. Me? Xenia turned to her and smiled. Unexpected, right? Do you want to congratulate me?